The FBI has formally denied the requests of Minnesota officials to get the evidence so they can investigate the death of Alex Pretti. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida Lawman here on Substack. And I'm going to be discussing what the state of Minnesota can do because they're not without their legal options. Before I do, I want to mention an update here on my Substack. First off, thank you for all your support. Really appreciate your subscribing, sharing with a friend, leaving a comment below. Before we dive into today's video, I have some exciting news to share about the future of this channel. As many of you know, I'm deeply committed to bringing you the legal analysis that you may not get anywhere else, and to keep growing, to improve the production and to dedicate the time needed for these complex cases. I'm officially launching a paid subscription option here on Substack. Now, don't worry, I'm still going to provide plenty of free content, but for those of you who want to go deeper, your paid support will give you access to, for example, live Q&As. I'm going to do monthly office hours. I'm also going to put all the original content in that new option. There will still be my clips from TV and my posts related to the TV clips and some of the original content in the free option. There'll always be a free option here. But if you found value in these videos, I'd be honored if you consider upgrading to a paid subscription. It helps this channel stay independent and grow and keep the community thriving. Also, it'll allow us to do a two-way communication. We'll do posts and chat back and forth. And so you'll get to be even a greater part of this community. So I want to thank you for your support, and let's talk about Alex Pretti and the decision by the federal government, the official decision to withhold the evidence from state investigators. Alex Pretti, as you know, was killed by Border Patrol agents, and he was pinned down. He at first was said to be a domestic terrorist, or that he was going to go on a shooting rampage. None of that was true, and even Kristi Noem had to walk it back, but not before lots of justified public embarrassment. And now the FBI has officially notified the state of Minnesota that they will not be turning over the evidence in the investigation. Now, we sort of knew this was going to happen, but now it's official. And the question is, what can the state officials do about it? Okay, so here's the deal. I was a state prosecutor, a state attorney for 12 years. And I never saw this, where you had the feds come in and say, not only are we going to hold all the evidence, but we're going to prevent you from accessing it. The only times when the feds are legitimately supposed to keep all the evidence for themselves, where it's a legitimate argument to do so, is when they are going to prosecute a case. And in that case, you want the feds have the evidence without sharing it because it protects the integrity of the evidence, the chain of custody. Also, you can also make sure that the state investigators do not offer immunity to your witnesses. You say to the state, hold off, let us prosecute the case first, and then you will get it. But I've never before seen a case where the feds say, hold off, because we're not going to prosecute and you're not going to either. That's unheard of. And so the state can go to a federal judge under the Administrative Procedures Act and say, force the feds to turn it over, force them to do so. And I think the feds, a federal judge, will grant that request, because in this case, it's not a good reason for the feds to deny the state unless they're going to have a legitimate federal investigation or prosecution themselves. And they've made clear they're withholding evidence from the state to prevent justice from being done, to prevent investigation. And, we've already seen the federal agents have denied the state investigators from what's called the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It's like the state version of the FBI. They've denied them access to the crime scene. They have obstructed the state from obtaining search warrants, but you can still get a search warrant despite the feds holding the evidence aside. You can still create a hotline where you get calls and people who will report what they know. You can still create a web portal, which they've done, to get videos from the public. And the videos are going to be the most crucial evidence here. So yeah, it doesn't help that the feds are withholding evidence, but even if a federal judge denies the state from getting the evidence from the feds, the state can still pursue its own prosecution of the agents who were involved in the death of Alex Pretti. So either way, the state can move forward. We have a federal system here. We have separate sovereigns, and that can, and I believe will happen. I do think the state will move forward with an indictment of one or more of the officers involved. I call them officers, they're federal agents, but for purposes of this, those individuals can, and I think will, be indicted by a state grand jury, with or without the federal government's help. The big question in this case is going to be, well, what happens next after the indictment? And then the defendant's going to go and remove the case to a federal court. His ability to do so, he was a federal officer, so it goes to federal court, but it's still a state case. It cannot be pardoned by President Trump. It's still a state prosecution. It's just in a federal court. And there, a federal judge will determine whether the federal agents have immunity. They have to show that what they did was necessary and proper in the performance of their duties. I don't think it was. I thought they went beyond the realm of reasonableness, and I think it is probable, but it's too early to say which way the federal judge will go. I can tell you this. The fact that the federal government seems to be acting in bad faith here, where they're withholding the evidence, trying to stop the state from even investigating, I think will help the state cause, not just to get the evidence, but also to prevent immunity from being granted. The federal judge will look at everything and say, if I grant immunity, then the attempts by the federal government to withhold evidence, to obstruct, succeed. And I think that it's not determinative. It won't decide one way or the other because the federal government has been so obstinate, but I do think it adds to the calculus. It adds to the state's arguments that here are all the reasons why this federal agent should not be given immunity. Do not shut this thing down. Let a jury decide. So I do think that in the end, it is more likely than not that these federal agents will be tried for crimes related to the death of Alex Pretti. Now, one last thing. When it comes to the federal government withholding evidence, that does not help the defendants in this case. The agents should want the evidence to be turned over because it makes it more likely that the state will prosecute on their own evidence. And the federal government is favorable to the agents. And so if the federal government would just turn over the stuff they have, perhaps that will include exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that could benefit the defendant, that could help clear him. But they're not. So when the state goes before the state grand jury, it's going to be the state evidence that they collect. It's not going to be a friendly investigation to these agents like it would be at the federal level. So I don't know if it's a good thing for the defendants that the federal government is withholding evidence. I wouldn't be surprised if the state goes to the federal judge and says, force the federal government to turn over evidence, that the potential defendants don't join in on that. It says, yeah, make the federal government turn over the evidence. We'll see. And we'll keep following here on Substack. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. It's still free, but check out the new option coming up. And also share with a friend, leave a comment below. I love reading your comments. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you next time.